it's me, Dominic. I'm the boy who sews, and I'm here today, and we are going to be sewing the New Jersey block for the Floral States of America. It is one of the first 5, and you can check out the video on the Cotton Cuts YouTube channel.
Yes, this is Fortune Teller. I've seen somebody asking. This is the colorway Fortune Teller.
Yes, and it is a small fortune teller, if I remember.
Small, right?
Fantastic. So, Crystal, what was your favorite part about this PMQ? What was your favorite part about everything?
My favorite part was definitely the fabric, because when I saw this colorway, I was like praying that I would be able to get it. So definitely the fabric. I love Allison Glass, but just these color choices put together, oh my gosh, beautiful.
So, Crystal, what is your single biggest tip or trick you can share with all the detectives as they put together this quilt and any PMQ for us?
I would say just, keep your little thing and have fun, because it's so easy. You don't really have to worry about much. You're not measuring anything. Just have fun with it.
So, Crystal, how can everyone find you? Because you're like, I love that the shirt matches your quilt. So, like, I definitely want to go and find you and learn more. So, how do people find you?
All right, on here on YouTube, I'm Crystal Hart, or like it's on the screen, at Crystal Hart Channel. On Instagram, I'm the word ONE, Crystal Hart, and on Facebook, Crystal Hart.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Facebook. Good morning, YouTube. And good morning, Instagram. It is 9:30 on a Thursday. It is Cotton Cuts time. Apologize, we were a little delayed. We had some technical difficulties. It's hard to do a live broadcast with no internet, but I think we are back and running. If we happen to cut out for whatever reason, just give us a little bit of grace, guys. We will be right back. Okay, so we're going to start this Thursday like we do every Thursday with questions that have been submitted by you guys. You're going to go to cottoncuts.com/live and submit a question. These are handed to me, so I'm gonna cheat today. There was one that was submitted in the Facebook group last night, and I asked it to be put on the list today. But these are handed to me when I sit down, and so you guys are seeing me live answer these questions. And based upon my little skimming here, we might actually need to crowdsource some answers this morning. Good morning to everybody that is checking in. Thanks so much for joining us. Okay. The first question this morning comes to us from Linda Sheehan from Leland, Michigan. Leland is actually a fun little town. One of my interns summers there every summer. Welcome from Leland. What are some essential tips for accurately cutting different shapes, such as squares, triangles, and circles when quilting? Okay, guys. All right. So this one, oh my gosh, how much time do we have? Okay, so we all know that the quilting process, well, it technically starts with finding a pattern, finding fabric, and then you get this lovely, lovely fabric, and you open up your pattern and it has all these cutting instructions. And you have all these awesome tools. You've bought all the specialty rulers, and you have your fancy mat, and you've got all your rotary cutters out, and then you start cutting. And I think we kind of learned how to use rulers in elementary school, but then you're kind of trying to figure out all of this. And so there's all tips and tricks for how to measure parts. And so I feel like for me, this is one of these ones, is how important is it to you that when the instructions say 3.5-inch squares, it's 3.5 and not 3 and like 3/8. There's a lot of people that get, and it's fine. All quilters are different. That 1/8 of an inch is so important to them. And so if that is important to you, then I recommend going out and searching and finding the tutorials. You always want to make sure that you're measuring with your ruler and not your mat. That's like the super biggest tip and trick that I learned. I used to measure using the lines on my mat and learned that those can shape and warp over time. And you don't want to use those. So make sure when you're measuring, you're actually measuring using a ruler, the rigid ruler with the lines. You want to make sure that the printed lines that you're trying to achieve are on top of your fabric when you're cutting it. That was a game changer for me. I was using the grid and I was using my rulers as just a straight cutting edge. Guys, they actually have a significant purpose if this is important to you. For triangles, it's always, there's some interpretation there with the geometry. Is it a 60-degree triangle? Is it a right triangle? Is it a half square? Is it a quarter square? I think those types of things, you can always find the like sew 8 at a time flying geese. There's all these tips and tricks online. My biggest thing that I've learned and adopted over the past couple of years is sewing bigger than I need and then trimming it down. So like a complex shape like a flying geese or a block and a block type of thing. I sew it bigger and then I trim it down. And I think that has gotten past some of my anxiety associated with making sure that I cut it right as a shape. And then the circles, my gosh, guys, that is really literally a matter of tracing and cutting on a line. And I think it's more about how you sew that and hoping that it sews and that the circles come out correctly. I see Sharon is saying she doesn't worry about precision that much. I've definitely gotten past it. I'd rather agonize over other parts of the process than the cutting. And Paula is like, would be like waving me down if I didn't say like, when Cotton Cuts does that die cutting for you, you don't have to worry about any of the shenanigans. And you can just sit and sew, and you don't have to worry about rotary cutter and rulers and all those expensive gadgets and tools that we use to help us improve this part of the process. But with that said, guys, if you like love cutting and you love like making sure that everything is the right shape, then definitely invest in the right tools. I think it's the right tool for the job is what is going to make this easiest and the best for you. I've also learned when I have like clear rulers and clear cutting implements, I can do more fussy cutting, which I find is fun. Is like, can I get that like Tula pink raccoon in the center of my clamshell that I'm cutting? That's the fun stuff for me that I think these new tools give us access to. But I would say, let's see here. Melissa Feldhaus is saying she's very literal. I mean, it says it should be 3.5 by 6.5, and it isn't. She has an internal meltdown. I get that. There is definitely 3.5 by 6.5. I mean, but I feel like it's fabric too. And if I let it sit and then come back tomorrow and remeasure it, I'm in a different state and the fabric's in a different state. It's slept overnight and it might be bigger or smaller. And I think it just depends. I think we're dealing with kind of variable materials that can stretch over time. And so, I mean, even if we take a 3.5 by 6.5 and fold it in half, it might be 3.5 by 6 and 5/8 by the time we get back to it. So I don't know, different day, come back to it and it might be a different shape when you measure it. Okay. Thank you so much for the question, Linda. I think, guys, if you have any other tips that I've missed or skirted around or ignored about accurately cutting, then definitely put them in the comments and share with Linda. All right, so another question comes to us from Carol Wendler. So Carol is an active member of our Cotton Cuts Fabric Facebook group. And so she is participating in our Floral States of America program. This is awesome. You guys are in love with this. I'm going to show you guys a couple more things about it that have just come off the bolt. But Carol was asking about spinning seams. And so this program uses a lot of spinning seams. And this is something that I learned how to do, oh gosh, like 5, 6, 7 years ago or so, and has completely changed the way that I sew intersecting seams together. And I learned this from Bonnie Hunter. She is a fantastic teacher of like outside the box. She specializes in precision cutting and sewing bigger and trimming down. She has taught me so much, but spinning seams is perhaps kind of the piece that has stuck with me the longest and is the one that I put into the Floral States program because we've got a lot of shapes in those blocks that come together like this. We all know this. This is a 4-patch. This is a 2x2. For Floral States, sometimes these have half square triangles, sometimes they go into the center, sometimes they go out. But we all have this, like, we've done these before, right? And we love it when these little points come together. And I did a live about 2-3 weeks ago when I was in Mexico, where I talked about nesting seams and making sure that you press your seams in opposite directions. So on this side, this way, and so that way when you sew them together, they nest and you get those nice, awesome little intersecting corners. Well, what happens is when you take your 4-patch and you sew them together, if you follow your seam direction around to the outside. So on this one, it's going this way. So if I take this new seam and press it down, follow it around and spin it up and take out just kind of those last 1 or 2 stitches, then I get this funky little flat little kind of mini 4-patch within the 4-patch. And so I hope you guys can see this. And so this will work well if you do not backstitch, but you're just going to pop out those last 1 or 2 stitches. And when you spin the seam, it's actually going to spin along the back and it lays really darn flat. because if we don't, when you intersect all this fabric together, it can be a pretty big bulk that's going to pop up a little bit on your quilt, and it's going to give you a little texture that you might be okay with and you might not be okay with. But in this case, if you spin those seams on the back, and all you have to do to spin it is just make sure your seams go in the same direction around the back, and then when you pop it out, this is like voodoo magic, guys. Greta, this is really easy, right? I know when I say spinning seams, it sounds hard. And when I show you this, you're like, what sort of crazy magic did the kids do behind the seams? Like, surely they must be cutting and pasting this together. But it's literally just in this floor patch, you follow those connecting seams around. And when you finger press this flat, you're going to get that fancy little shape that is super flat. I know, Jana, this little floor patch makes me so happy. Like it looks pretty on the back, and you like it looks pretty on the back, it's pretty on the front. And of course, on the front, all those corners match super nicely together. And like I said, it lays flatter. So chances of it kind of walking on the top and possibly some parts kind of shifting on you are much less if you do it this way. So that is a technique that we're going to use a lot in floral states because we have a lot of those seams that come together and we want them to lay as flat as possible. So thank you so much, Carol, for the question. If you guys are watching this and you see other questions like this in the group, definitely share this tip. This is super fantastic and great and has changed kind of my intersecting seams to keep them as small as possible. All right, so that's all the questions that we have for this show. So definitely go to cottoncuts.com/live and submit a question for next week. If there's something you're wondering about, a program you're working on, and you get stuck, ask it. And if I don't have the answer, I'm sure one of the lots of people watching this show will be able to help us. All right, if you're watching us on Facebook and on YouTube, don't forget to give StreamYard your permission so that way I can see your name and we can answer all your questions and share them with the group. Stay to the end, and we are going to have another weekly giveaway. It is going to be awesome. You're going to want to stay. The question, I guarantee you this week's going to be real simple. We want to give stuff away. All right, so what's happening in the shop this week? Oh my gosh, you guys, there are mountains of fabric that are like this tall, repeated by about 25 times. We are working on Wild West, and so we are working on all the whole quilts needed for Wild West, and we are just massively taking fabric off the bolt, and we are massively ironing it, and we are massively die cutting it. It is a project because we have about 1,200 whole quilts that we're going to be shipping out the door to you guys for Wild West. And so I've no doubt Paul is going to get videos and pictures, and you're going to see these giant mounds of fabric and know that our team is ironing it and folding it and die cutting it and making sure that everything gets to you as completely and as precision cut as we can. All right, so that's definitely happening. Don't forget to sign up. Yeah, someone saw that their fabric was in the short. Yes, so we like to do those little like, is this your fabric? Is this your colorway? Have you seen your prints? That is super fun. Don't forget that our first clue ships on July 26th. We did have, I think, 4 colorways have sold out. I'm still working on the wait list with those guys. I'm calling up and trying to negotiate how much fabric can we get in and then calculating how many people we can add. It takes a little bit of time. And plus we've got a lot of shipping problems going on. Here in St. Louis, our post office that supports us had a mercury spill and is going to be closed for 11 days. And so they're moving our mail around, trying to get everything continuously to you guys. Things in the postal service, everyone just give them a little grace this summer. They're doing the best they can. All right, but definitely get signed up by July 26th. So we are also working on the Floral States of America. My son Dominic did that cute little short where he sewed the block together. Made me so happy. It's sitting up here. Hold on, let me make sure I get the right one. It's this little guy. Like, Dominic sewed this, you guys. He's 12 years old. I am so proud of him and his little spinning seams on the back. He and Paula worked together on that. It was awesome. And so what I want to do is show you the 5 that shipped 2 weeks ago. And so you guys can see them and get a feel for the program and how all these seams come together. So this is our Delaware. We've shown Delaware a few times. I like this one, the 3-dimension. It looks like a city skyline you're looking down on. We also have our Pennsylvania block. This is the mountain laurel flower. And the New Jersey, this is the one that Dominic sewed. He sewed this one on the little video. If you guys have not get a chance, go check him out. He's a funny kid. We don't script that stuff. We just point him in the right direction, and he is here to entertain. I don't know where he gets that from. Okay, then we have Connecticut, which I think is fun. This one's got all these flying geese swimming in different direction. A lot of fun. And then Georgia. This one was really easy, guys. But that flower is made for a big print like this, a big design like this. We love it. And so we have like about 15 more seats available. And so I know you guys are loving this. I'm seeing lots of positive comments. That makes me happy because when I sewed these together, it was a lot of fun to just sit and like, I have maybe like 20 pieces together and I sit and I sew them together. So for next month, we have 5 more states that are going to be shipping on July 1st. Don't forget, these are coming out in the order that these states became states in the United States. So we're going in statehood order. That's why these first 5 states were chosen. And so then our next ones, we have Maryland. Maryland has a Black-Eyed Susan. And so this is like a teeny tiny little ditzy print, but it's got that aqua in the background. We will use it. How big is the blue around those blocks? Okay, so Greta, we actually, this is the 1.5 inch sashing that we are going to be using for your finishing. So if you've selected to do it on grid or on point, this is the sashing that you are going to be sent with your last set of blocks. And so all of your blocks are going to have an inch finished 1.5 cut. So great question. Thank you, Greta. So yeah, so this is the Black-Eyed Susan for Maryland. It's a teeny tiny little guy. Then we have these purple lilacs. These purple lilacs are New Hampshire. We have Mayflower. I got to, this is Massachusetts, named after the Mayflower, obviously, that's settled there. The American dogwood. So we actually have flowering dogwoods. They flowered a few weeks ago. So this is Virginia. And then we have another Black-Eyed Susan from Maryland. Here we go. All right. So we have a lot of the same flowers. That is kind of our learning as we go through this, is that multiple states have multiple flowers, but they're all different. Andover did a fantastic job. We're pulling in this royal blue, which is making a lot of the fantastic colors pop, as well as the aqua and the white. Okay. That's fantastic. We did a snippet challenge, and so that ended. And so voting starts tomorrow. You guys, these photos are amazing. I am always blown away with what you guys can do with what, you know, our company considers to be waste, right? So this is something we don't ever want to throw these away. And the fact that you guys can take them and add vision and creativity and fabric and make super inspiring stuff. Our team here has even gotten together and played. I have a feeling you guys are going to see some Halloween projects coming up here pretty soon. Paula, who is, to be clear, not a quilter, has, oh, she's handing them to me, guys. Like that was Paula off camera. Has found all these like super Halloween fabrics that we're shipping with our classic. And she yesterday took a chunk of time and was just cutting off all these usable pieces. And I have no doubt she's going to make something. I think she's going to make a Halloween bag if I heard correctly, but who knows where inspiration will take her after she cuts those strips. So yes, so the voting is going to start tomorrow. We are picking winners based upon you guys. This is not Team Cotton Cuts. This is not a panel. This is you guys getting in there and voting for your favorites. These are a fan favorite. We will pick a winner of the quilt category, and we're going to pick a winner of the small project. They are going to get a free 6-month membership to a cotton cut product of their choice. So it could be a modern maker, it could be a classic, it could be 6 months towards a PMQ. Whatever they want to do for 6 months, they're going to win. And then, of course, we have that fantastic Oliso iron that Dominic was playing with. It's super cute. It's mini. I've been playing with it. It has, you guys, it has a head. We're calling it a headlight. It has a little like spotlight that comes out the front. So when you're ironing it, you can see where you're going, which is great. My ironing space is a little dark. And so it's super cute. We love it. And so we're going to announce the winner next week on our live. And we'll actually show pictures of those projects too. All right. So as everyone knows, we are moving. That is coming super hot and fast. And we are moving in August in St. Louis. Wish us luck. We're going to need it. It is going to be really hot. But what we are doing is we're kind of taking a tour through the shop and showing you guys some of the cool things we have hanging around that we love. We don't want to have to move. And so what we are doing is we still have some of those holiday your way mini mystery quilts. So last November, we did a table runner, a holiday themed table runner. We had 5 different fabric collections that we picked with it. We still have some of those kind of hanging around in the shop. So those guys are now 20% off. No coupon code, no discount needed. They are 20% off in the shop now. If you go to cottoncuts.com/shop, you'll see Rosa's Holiday Your Way. I actually have the one that I made, and I'm going to hope to have quilted and be on our holiday table this year. But guys, this is the project for those of you that participated and or have seen photos and might be wondering how you can do it. We still have, I think, like 4 colorways left. I think there's 5 or 6 of each. Head to the website, 20% off, and they'll be there until it's gone because we don't want to have to move those lovelies to our new space. All righty. Oh, All right, so to today's topic. Let's see, here's a particular place we should be posting pics of floral seeds. Greta, you can post those photos in the Cotton Cuts Fabric group. You can post them on your Instagram. As long as you tag us, we will repost them in our stories. Okay, today's topic, we're going to talk about batting. So this is a topic that came up in the past week in the shop. As people are finishing their quilts, we talked about binding last week. We wanted to talk a little bit about batting because not everyone knows everything. And so I'm going to be super transparent, guys. I am not an expert on batting. I, slept at a Holiday Inn Express last night, so I have enough information to share with you. I'm going to give you just enough to be dangerous. And what I would love to do is just give you guys enough to be able to go watch more YouTube videos or read articles online and be able to piece together what's right for you. Because like everything with quilting, it's your quilt. And especially something for batting, once the quilt is done, nobody is going to know what's inside of it, right? So the only person that needs to be happy with what's inside is you. And so I'm going to give you enough to be dangerous. If you ask questions, I'm probably going to be able to answer them or point you in the right direction. But so the first thing that we need to talk about is what is the purpose of a batting, right? Why do we put batting in quilts? And so it has two main reasons, and that is insulation, right? You want your quilt to have warmth depending on where it's going to go, and also stability. If we took a quilt top and stitched it right directly to a quilt back, it will not last as long as if it had a batting, an insulating layer in the middle to give it a little bit longer life, right? So we add batting for insulation and for stability. And so I know that there's a lot of consternation over what batting to put in it. Am I spending enough money? And I want to just remind everybody, quilts that were made 100 and 150 years ago did not use commercial batting like what we have today. They used whatever they had available. And so they would put leftovers from clothes because it was insulation. They didn't have heating and cooling. And so they used leftover remnants of clothes. They used letters. They used newsprint. They used whatever they could to fill the quilt to give it the insulation and stability it needed. And so I know we have a lot of like stress over what we put in there, but guys, we could be putting lots of other things in there too. And it is your quilt and you are the one that needs to be happy with it. So whatever makes you happy is what you should be using. And so an interesting tidbit about that, if you're a quilt historian and you're looking to age a quilt that's old, when you open it up, the date on the newsprint and the date on the letters usually tell you how old the quilt is. It's just a kind of a history tip there. All right, so insulation stability. So when you're looking for the batting, it's in your finished project. How is it going to be in Florida? Is it going to be in Alaska? Is it going to be washed every day? Is this something that like it's a baby and you expect them to vomit on it and get other bodily fluids on it? Or is it something that it's going to hang on a wall, right? All of those factors go into selection of batting. And I think the single biggest factor that should go into your batting selection is what is your budget? There is no reason why you should be breaking your bank to put a really nice, expensive batting in there if it does not fit your budget, right? You've put a lot of money into the top and into the back. You do not have to spend a lot of money. And nobody is going to know that you used that $40 off Joann's coupon on your batting. And nobody is going to know if you ordered it online, right? Like I said, once it's inside, the only person that's going to know is you. And so don't feel compelled to have to spend a lot of money on batting if you don't have it. It's definitely within your budget. Jana, I'm going to come back to the several layers question in just 1 second. Okay, so when you're looking at your batting, one of the first things you need to look at is loft. And so when I say loft is the actual thickness of your batting. And so when I was growing up, we did not have a lot of money. That's why I keep talking about the budget question. And so we used polyester high loft batting because it was the cheapest that we could find at our quilt shop. And so I have an example of what I mean when I say loft. So loft, like this is probably an average polyester batting thickness. It's about 1.5 inches, 2 inches. It can get to 3.5 inches. I remember as a kid, like I used to love to see that big roll come out and then unroll it. And my brother and I would like roll around and play in it because it was so much fun. It's so squishy. This is a great kid batting. It's not very expensive. And so if there's mistakes made, like there's not a lot of tears shed over it. And the finished quilt will typically tend to be poofier. You don't have to quilt this when you're putting it together as tightly as some of the other battings we're going to look at today, because it is typically more stable. However, in your quilt, if you don't quilt it at all, this is one that will ball up against some of your stitches really easily. You definitely don't want that. But this is usually kind of a good, I'm playing with batting, I'm sewing with kids, I'm budget conscious. This is the batting to go with, but it will give your quilts a little bit of loft. I still have, like, I think my first 4 or 5 quilts, I used polyester batting like this. I still have them. I still use them. They're in the closet. They come out. But I would say, you know, anytime that you wash these repeatedly, this is the one that typically will ball up on you if it's not quilted within. It's like, I think it's 8 inches. All of these battings have recommended quilting distances between your stitches, depending on the materials. And so definitely consult the manufacturer for that. This one I would say is probably average warmth, and it would be average durability. It is polyester, and so it is a plastic. And so if I had, we talked a couple weeks ago about the match test. If I had a lighter here, this would actually melt because it is a synthetic material and not a natural material, for those of you that are interested in the difference there. All right, so then we're going to talk about low loft. So this is a cotton batting, and so you can see it has a very, very low loft. It is super, super, super thin. And so this is warm and natural. And so this is probably the leading brand of cotton batting that's out there because it's readily available. And so this is called Warm and Natural because this is an unbleached batting. So it's hard to see because some of the lighting, but this is actually cream. We talked with our featured designer on Monday about the difference between bleached and unbleached cotton. Warm and Natural is unbleached. And so you're going to get natural slobs in here of some cotton. That's just a little bit of things that have made it through the process. Again, it's the inside of your quilt. The only one that knows it's there is you. This is Warm and Natural. They also do make Warm and White, which is a bleached version of the same product. And so it is white. Now, you can get batting now in multiple colors. And so why would that matter, right? If we're in the polyester, it's going to be white. That's all it's going to be. Here, if it's you're using like a dark color fabric, when you quilt on a Warm and Natural or Warm and White, sometimes that batting can get sucked through in your needle if it's not sharp enough, and it can kind of what's called pill through to the back and the front of your quilt. If that matters, then definitely make sure that the batting is compatible with your fabric choice. I don't necessarily know if it's that significant because that type of thing typically wears out over time. But you can definitely, I mean, this comes in black now, and I've never used it. I've been always happy with Warm and Natural. The Warm and White, if I'm doing something that's pure white, I don't want to worry about any sort of color kind of coming through to the other side. But Warm and Natural is my go-to default. So as we look at loft, guys, like this is super thin. Like if we compare these two together, right, just thinking about these between quilts, it is going to be much, much thinner. For me, Janet, to get to your question, I usually double up Warm and Natural. And so I do that because I made a quilt and I used one layer and I looked at it and I was like, oh my God, it's so thin. Like, I don't think it has enough insulation for where I want that quilt to go. Definitely stability, right? This cotton is going to add stability and longevity and it's going to give it durability. But I did not think it had enough insulation for the projects that I was working on. So I have since started doubling up my Warm and Natural, and that has typically been sufficient for the projects that I am doing. This is also cotton as opposed to the polyester. And so one of the things to look at with your batting is the shrinkage as well, right? So polyester is not going to shrink a whole lot. It's pretty much going to hold its shape. The cotton, depending on the brand that you use, will have different shrinkage factors. All of that is in the information that comes with it. And so if you like that quilt that you quilt it, you wash it, and it kind of shrinks up like a nice worn cotton t-shirt, you're going to want to use the cotton batting, and it's going to shrink up and give you that crinkly quilted look as well. All right, so those are kind of the two biggest when it comes to batting. Is it's either going to be polyester or cotton. There is a ton of alternate substrates in the batting category. And so we talked about bamboo a couple of shows ago. All of these processes are changing. They're becoming better. They're becoming more durable. They're becoming more affordable. It really comes back to that. What's the insulation and what is the stability that you need for your project and what is your budget? And so There's, I have a whole list here. There's wool, there's bamboo, there's cotton and polyester together, there's silk, there's something called thermore batting. All of these battings are available. If you want to get totally crazy and go down rabbit holes, again, if you're sending a quilt to Alaska, you're probably not going to want one layer of cotton. You're going to want something that's wool. You're going to want something that's a little kind of warmer wherever it's going. However, if I am also using a quilt in Florida, one layer of warm and natural might be more than I need, right? So all of those things go into place. And again, we come back to the budget piece. And so I have definitely put some interesting and creative things in my quilts, just depending on what I'm doing. Warm and natural is my go-to. But, and I saw Greta put this out there, that flannel works as well. And so flannel is typically cheaper. It doesn't really matter what it looks like. You can go and get flannel that has all sorts of crazy designs on it, that's on the discount, on the clearance rack, and you can put that in the middle of your quilt. You can also use fleece. I've used fleece before. If I want something that's kind of warm, cozy, I put fleece in the middle. I put minky on the back, which is also the same, warm and fuzzy. I would say the biggest considerations with flannel and with fleece are its stretchability. It is going to be slippery. It is going to shift. It is going to move on you. And so if you're using flannel or fleece, you definitely want to use a spray-based or a lot more safety pins than you normally would, because it's going to move. It's going to stretch on you. I feel like that's kind of the opportunity cost, right? It's slightly less expensive, but it is a little bit more work. And so the pendulum kind of stays in the middle. I've also done non-quilt projects that are quilted. And so we've done a lot of bags and projects here in the shop. And so this is a foam stabilizer that is readily available at Joann's. And so our team has taken pieces like this and put them into little zippered pouches. And one of my favorite parts about some of these alternate kind of battings, I wouldn't put this in a quilt per se, but this could go into a project, is they're fusible. So if I am quilting this, I can actually fuse the fabric onto the front and back. So when I am quilting it, nothing moves, nothing shifts. It's magic. If you can find fusible batting to use, it is a game changer, guys, because if I was to take something like this and try and put safety pins in it or even straight pins, it would be challenging. But if you can find fusible batting, and I know they're making fusible battings in the cotton category as well, the fusible battings, those keep things as smooth and as straight as possible. So they are fantastic. But this foam stabilizer, I've definitely used it in quilted projects before that are smaller based. And then kind of the catalyst for the conversation in the shop was, if I am using something that needs heat insulation, what sort of batting should I use? Clearly, all of these are going to work, right? These are all going to provide a couple more layers of fabric, a couple more layers of protection. If you're using like a heating pad, or if you're using a casserole container, or if you're putting on a table runner and putting hot items on it. But the one product that has been around for forever is called Insulbright. And so this is an Insulbright batting layer. You can use this by itself. You can also pair it up with any of these battings as well. But so what Insulbright is it's actually crinkly. I'm going to try and ASMR this here, if you can hear that kind of crinkling as we go. But it has a metal insulation layer. It's a little piece of kind of metal foil that's in the middle there, and it's meant to be heat protective. So it's used very commonly in, like I said, the pot holders, the table runners, any sort of like casserole container where you want to keep heat in and you want to keep things protected that are perhaps touching the heat. I would think possibly the next iteration of this would be maybe a jacket. I don't know. It's kind of stiff, but I mean, maybe someone out there might hear this and be inspired to go make a jacket out of this. But when I'm thinking of keeping things warm, this is the Insulbright. Now, I think, 2-3 years ago, people were using this for the bowl cozies, when bowl cozies were all the rage, and we're microwaving it. So let's not do that, guys. That metallic inlayer does tend to catch fire in a microwave. So let's definitely keep this out of the microwave. All right. I think those are all kind of the big kind of batting topics. And so I know that there's some people who, pick a batting and use it for everything. And so that's me. I'm a warm and natural. I pick it. I get the, the giant bolt, the roll, and I use it for all the individual projects. It's what we use here in the shop when we've got projects that need to be finished. Your long armors, if you're taking a quilted project and you're sending it to a long armor, probably has a preferred batting that they're getting by Giant Rolls as well. All of that will work because remember, it is your quilt, it is your project, and literally the only person that knows what's inside of it is you. And in 150 years in the future, the historian that tries to figure out when it's made, right? That's it. That's the only people that are going to ever know what's inside your quilt. So really, it's up to what makes you happy and what the intended use of your project is. And my favorite is the continual learning, right? So we're always learning as we go. And so try it. If you've never tried polyester batting, like I would give it a whirl. Pick a project, pick something that you're gifting to someone, a baby quilt or something, and just try it and see if you like it. To me, like stitching through, because you can quilt polyester, it's lighter. You can quilt it on a home machine. Like you're putting through a sandwich like this big into your machine. And so how does that work for you? Do you like it? Do you like the thinner? Do you like the walking foot? All of those things. Try multiple layers too. I've only ever used up to 2 of warm and natural, but you can probably use more if you really were in on it. There's a lot more in the batting category, guys. Hopefully this is enough to enable you to go out and do some additional research. If you've used bamboo batting, I would definitely love to see pictures of it in the Cotton Cuts Fabric Facebook group. I feel like that's kind of the next kind of trend where people are going to start going, where if it's produced and kept more kind of mass market, then the bamboo is probably going to start displacing some of our cotton because bamboo is technically more sustainable. It is easy to grow and it is easier to replenish, so it's more sustainable. I see Sharon is saying problem with polyester is not being able to iron the project after. Yeah, that is the one thing, right? It does melt. I feel like you can get around that with a lower heat, but again, when you're dealing with children and children's sewing, they typically don't press their final projects, right? So again, it's kind of fit for purpose and the application as well. All righty, gang. Okay, so that's everything I had. If you have any questions, pop them in and, perhaps we'll bring it back next week or we will post it in our group. So the question that we have at the end of the live to be entered to win a $25 gift card to our shop, which you can definitely use to buy some of our holiday mini mysteries, is what is your favorite batting to use for your quilt project? Are you a one and done and one for everything and that's all you use? Or are you opportunistic and do you plug in different things depending on what you're doing? I think Flannel on Fleece is a fantastic new opportunity for people who are, more budget conscious. But yeah. All righty. Oh, so some quick reminders. Don't forget to sign up for Wild West. Signups are actively ongoing. Those will ship at the end of July, but don't wait, guys. Some of these collections I'm getting not such great feedback on, and you want to make sure you get your colorway. Have no regrets, guys. Remember to vote on the snippet challenge beginning tomorrow. That is user voted. You guys get to pick the winner. And so if you've had an entry, A, thank you. But B, tell all your friends, put it on the Facebook, get it out there, get all your friends voting for you. And don't forget that Floral States is still available, but I think we only have like 10 or 15 left. And after Dominic's video starts spreading out, we will probably have less. So with that, thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you so much for listening to this batting chat. And I hope that you guys find this video, put some comments in and let us know what you use. With that, everyone have a fantastic weekend and we will see you guys next week. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.